Andrey Gregoryev is back, and Vincent is why we're here. Andrey created, invented the Brook All Glass Cat Fountain. And so you've heard him on the show before. I'm happy and proud and very grateful to say that Brooke is now a sponsor of the show. And I want to tell you, Brooke, that my god cat, if you're the godmother to a cat, I guess it's your god cat, like a godson, Bowie, who my friend Rebecca adopted. He was unadoptable because he had feline leukemia and several other problems, but he's like the coolest, best cat. So the fountain came. She thought it was so beautiful. She put it down and she tells me right away, he doesn't like it. I'm like, hello? He's seen it for 5 minutes. Cats are supposed to be given up to 2 weeks for something new. He likes his stainless steel fountain. I said, yeah, but the Brook fountain's the thing. So she said, I don't think so. And he's scared and he ran away. Okay, so it's 24 hours later. Yeah, he's drinking from the fountain and he likes it a lot. And he has all these medical problems and he should be drinking a lot. So I just want to say to anybody who gets the Brook fountain, give it a minute, people. It's a cat. They don't embrace new things and go, great, I can't wait to see what that scary thing is. So thank you for inventing it and thank you for sending it to Bowie. The reason we're here is because Vincent is addicted to Kitty Krack. And I went back and looked at my book, The Cat Bible, which I wrote in 2007. I wrote it in 2000 and I don't know, five and a half, but it was published in 2007. And I wanted to check, did I already know how bad dry food was for cats? Because I've learned it from doing this show 7 years live on the air on Sirius and now another, I don't know, 7 years as a podcast. Yeah, I knew it then. It actually says dry food is disastrous for cats. So I have to say, good for you for adopting Vincent and knowing that you have to get him off the dry food, but he's hooked. And for a lot of people, they're like, that's what he likes. It's like saying about your child, he's only 14, but he just loves cigarettes. So I let him vape. It isn't in any way okay. So what do we do about a kitty cat crack addict? I can go back slightly and say to people, if you don't believe me, I don't know, listen to half a dozen or 12 shows I've done on this show. They're all in the library at TracyHotchnerPets.com about Kitty Krack with Dr. Elizabeth Hodgkins, who met me originally and became a co-host often on Cat Chat because she felt that as a feline-only veterinarian, she had not known this early in her career. And when she learned it, she realized she could save cats from becoming diabetic, but basically save them also from becoming dehydrated from the inside out because they're obligate carnivores. So you have to wonder, Andre, why does a cat want to crunch on hard pellets, which come from the idea of kibble for dogs, when in fact their real prey should be a mouse and all their fluid, other than a brook fountain, which now tops up the fluid in cats, it should come from their prey animal, a mouse or a lizard or a bird. So we're not going to give Vincent a mouse, a lizard, or a bird. We're going to try to give him wet food, which you've tried, and you try different brands, and you are on the shelf. I'll try a pate, I'll try shredded, I'll try in gravy. And Vincent goes, what's that? I don't even know what that is. Where's my kitty crack? So the first thing we have to understand is that the cat's brain is wired in such a way that the kitty crack has hit a pleasure center in their brain, the way we all know now drugs do for people. So there's a pleasure center, and for some people, food is also that way. It becomes an addiction, if you will, or an obsession. So that's what's happened with some cats, and Vincent is a good example. You don't give them the kitty crack and they cry and they whine. And if you put it in your pantry behind a closed door and you roll up the top of the bag, even, there are cats who will knock on that door, scratch on that door. And if you open the pantry, they'll dash in to get their fix. That's not healthy behavior, obviously. That's proof in itself the cat's addicted. So when you have given him wet food, does he in fact walk away and go, hey, Dad, where's lunch? What is this thing?
Yeah, pretty much he sniffs at it and he peeks at it. And my other adopted cat is right next to him eating it. So it's not like he doesn't understand what it is, but he does
Yes.
walk away. Recently, I have had 'Cause I've tried everything, like you said. I've tried pretty much every brand, every
Yes.
consistency, every texture. One thing I did find that he actually does enjoy is these little lickable sticks by Vital Kitty, I believe they're called. They're in a green packet.
Everybody makes a lickable. The lickable is
Yeah,
supposed to be a treat or a way to
yeah,
medicine, right?
yeah. It's an interesting thing. I tried a bunch of lickables. This is the only one so far that something's
Oh,
at least
how
attracting him enough.
interesting.
Yeah, but at least there's a start. I figured it's a start, so at
It
least
is a start.
it's better than the kibble. Yeah, but yeah,
But
like
it's
you said, I
not,
mean,
but
he
it's,
is
but just to interrupt, it's not in any way meant to be a balanced meal. So
no, definitely
it
not.
it
Yeah, yeah.
is it's completely different than kibble. I view it as a food starter for cats who are
Mhm.
addicts. So if you do find a lickable or almost any treat, but particularly lickable, that the cat likes, but he doesn't understand wet food, then you give a teaspoon of wet food, not a whole can, because that could be overwhelming, a teaspoon, and you cover it with the lickable. You squeeze the lickable on
Mm-hmm.
it. So now he's licked the lickable and maybe licked up a bit of the wet food also. So that helps.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Mm-hmm.
thing that can help, it seems a little counterintuitive, is to take a little bit of the kibble and crush the bits, crush them, and sprinkle that on top of, again, a very small amount of wet food so that you can see that he's actually eaten some of the wet food. So, again, it's used as a starter. Since cats' sense of smell is one of their most important senses, and people don't realize that, but it is. They have a really keen sense of smell. It's also part of what makes an environment safe for them. So, for example, scented kitty litter, which is a complete no-no and not on the topic of food or water fountains, is a real deterrent to cats. They don't want any scent in their litter. Forget the weird scents that people are now putting in. All those old scents of pine and lavender and etc. No good. But they're in fact they have a really keen sense of smell. So if they're smelling the wet food and it smells alien to them, they haven't smelled it before in their life, but they could have the smell of the crushed kibble on top. Now it's become safe. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
palatable. It's interesting you say he sees his brother cat chewing on wet food and he goes, I don't know, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? He doesn't even get that's an eating thing. So the crushed kibble is one way. Another good way that Dr. Elizabeth used to talk about is cold cuts, either roast beef or turkey. Ham's a little too salty, but you'll do anything to get the cat to not want to eat kitty crack, or at least to try healthy food. So you take a little bit of deli meat, which most of it has injected with some kind of fluids and maybe a bit of chemicals and a lot of salt, but it doesn't matter. All of that is still better than dry food. And you sprinkle a bit of that on, or even feed him some bits of turkey or cheese, or if you've cooked salmon for dinner, whatever you might have that's actual food, give him a tiny bit. Get him used to eating something that isn't dry and hard. So that's another thing you can do. The important part, and this is hard for people to understand, is that leaving any amount of kitty crack available makes anything else even less interesting. So not only can you not put it out, you can't have it anywhere within his sight or especially his smell. So a metal garbage can in the garage, that sounds extreme. But, and the only reason you do that rather than throwing it out is once you've got him over the addiction, then you can give that open bag of food to whatever your local cat shelter is or TNR groups because they put
Mm-hmm.
out dry food often. If he doesn't have access to the kitty crack and you've tried to make these other interesting ways of eating food appealing, then eventually he will start to eat wet food. You can feed him turkey and chicken and salmon and cheese for a number of days. He's not going to get sick. You do need a well balanced food for taurine and other ingredients, but if you can get him to eat some protein, since they're obligate
Mm-hmm.
carnivores, between addiction and rehab, if you will, that's fine too. But if some wet food can be involved in it, that helps. And thank God you have the other cat who eats wet food because I feel so bad for people who go out and they go, I'll try a tin of this and a tin of that and this flavor and that texture. And then they're out a buck or whatever a can of food costs these days. But now your other cat, like, I'll take that, Dad. Looks good to me. So I think that kind of the phrase I used to use when I was live on the air is you have to go cold turkey. I know that
Hmm.
sounds like a little bit of a pun because I'm saying you could also feed turkey deli meat, but it's not as though you can wean them off of their addiction. Giving them any
Hmm.
keeps them addicted. That's the part that it took me a long time to learn that as well, with Dr. Elizabeth and some other vets who are trying very hard to keep so many cats from being diabetic or becoming diabetic. There's no middle ground. It's like saying, I'll just have one cigarette after dinner because I'm not really hooked on cigarettes anymore. But you know that the one cigarette keeps that addictive element in your body, in your bloodstream. And maybe you'll have a second or a third because it's been a hard day or whatever the reason may be. So it needs to stop cold turkey, but no cat can go 24 hours without food. So there's this balance between you got to stop completely, but you have to transition in a way that you know the cat will eat something because you cannot starve a cat. People with dogs will sometimes say, I'm just going to wait it out if Willie doesn't like the new kibble I got or even the new wet food. It's okay with a dog. A dog can go a period of days without food, but a cat can't. It messes their metabolism up dreadfully. They have to have, out in the wild, they could have 3 to 6 little meals in a day, but they have to have at least two with you when they're living with you. Is Here's another question, Andre. Is Vincent at all overweight?
No, if anything, he's actually a bit underweight. He came from a bit of a hoarding situation, from what I understand. So he's
Oh
got a bunch of
my.
traumas, it seems. Yeah, he was taken from there. He went through a couple of fosters. The last one was actually a really good one. It's the lady who sits our cats when we're away, and she's
Oh,
fantastic.
nice.
So she really got his personality developed out, some
Nice.
security. And so but he's still, I think, in a bit of a traumatized state. He still only comes out at night, spends
Oh,
most of the day under the couch. But
oh,
more and more, more he
wow.
does come out in the evenings and the mornings. He's interacting with the family. He has his favorite thing now is to come out at 3 a.m. and get a 1 hour petting from me. And then in the morning, go back under the couch, pretend he doesn't know who I am again. But that's fine. It is what it is.
Oh, Andre, you're amazing. I must say that a family that will take in a kitty who doesn't want to interact, who's not social, who doesn't give you that human animal bond reward, like, oh, we love each other, make biscuits, purr.
Mhm.
I really appreciate it because we know that these cats eventually, just like my god cat Bowie, who was had been stuck in the shelter for ages because nobody wanted to take a cat with medical issues. He also had upper respiratory, he had eye infections, just things that happen when you have feline leukemia and other FLIV, etc. But he's turned into an amazing, loving, fun cat. So
Hmm.
anyone who has a Vincent in their life, thank you for taking him in. Don't quit. Hang in there with him,
Hmm.
right? So we're talking about, so the reason I asked about whether he was overweight, many cats who live only on Kitty Krack because the owners didn't know any better, not because of the cats had some dreadful life, they're usually at least somewhat overweight, if not a lot.
Wait, yep. Hmm.
So, one of the other things that happens when you switch from dry food to wet is that cats lose weight. In a healthy way, they lose weight, they lose fat. But if they're really fat, and a lot of people don't even realize that a normal cat shouldn't have a belly and should be sleek and long, not round or square or rectangular, they can't lose weight quickly because that is very dangerous. They already have fatty liver disease because if you're a fat cat, a lot of the fat is packed around your liver. That's where it
Hmm.
resides. And in order for the body to get rid of it, it can overwhelm the liver in leaving the body. So that has to be done really slowly. In his case, because he is underweight and he's still in a freaked out frame of mind, we don't want to, let's say, stress him by saying, oh, please eat the wet food. Just come up with anything you can to give him to eat that isn't the kitty crack. In his case, I'm going to say we have to be more forgiving. Maybe in the hoarding situation, he was starved. And maybe the first food he had in a long time was dry food. And it represents, I don't know, the release from prison to him. We don't know what it feels like to him, but we know that it's the only thing that feels safe to him. So we don't want to take that away from him, but we do want to, don't try and mix it with kibble because then it changes the texture of both the kitty crack and the wet food. But do crush up a few kernels and sprinkle it on top. If that works, you're in great shape. But then again, in order to build that bond, if you find that he likes any of the deli meat or even some of the cat treats that are out there, which may not have the world's most marvelous ingredients, but they make a happy moment for a cat. If you can get him to take that from your hand, the way he takes his 3 a.m. 1 hour of stroking, and then not only does it bond him with you, but oh, turkey, huh? No kidding. I didn't know what that was. So
Hmm.
little by little, he'll come to recognize real food. I have seen cats that are kitty crack addicts, and you offer them fresh turkey, never mind deli meat. Let's say you and your wife say, heck, we'll just give part of a rotisserie chicken, which is also a pretty flavorful and a good way to give a cat some protein. And he looks at it like it's Greek to him. You have a ways to go. But if you squeeze that creamy, not creamy, what was the vital lickable?
Hmm. Vita Kitty, I think,
Vitacat,
yeah.
Vitakitty, if you squeeze that onto the turkey. In other words, if even regular real food is foreign to him, it's an alien thing, squeeze the stuff he likes onto anything you'd like him to eat, which is
Hmm.
anything except for kitty crack. So in your case, we can't say go cold turkey because we don't want this cat to be panicked about not having food that he recognizes or feeling abandoned again, which is what hoarding might have felt like. We don't know what it felt like because we don't know the
Yeah.
exact circumstances, right? So, do you think that some of those things could work?
I'm definitely gonna try it. I think sprinkling on the dry is something I definitely haven't tried and haven't heard of, so I'm definitely give it a shot. I did try to give him a cold turkey, cold cuts actually.
Oh,
The high
interesting.
quality or some Whole Foods. Again, yeah, he did sniff, but I think it was one of those things, yeah, where he didn't know what to do with it. I do have a question for actually. Also, what is your point of view on freeze-dried single ingredient things? So, with my other cat, he's we don't know any kibble for him. But he really likes, I got it to him as a treat initially, but he's like
Right?
obsessed with it. It's just pure freeze-dried chicken breast. But it does obviously have the dehydration issue. So I guess it may be somewhere in between. I don't know what are your
Yes,
thoughts
you're
on it?
absolutely right. It's totally in between, and there are many freeze-dried single ingredient treats or snacks. And it doesn't matter if it says it's for dogs or cats, because if I've got freeze-dried beef liver or chicken liver or any kind of organ meat or they don't usually do beef, but chicken or fish. Those are tasty and good for you, but they don't sustain quality health for a cat, mostly because of the missing taurine and I believe calcium and just the balance of other nutrients because cats have hearts that react poorly to not having a full and balanced amino acid profile. I
Hmm.
will say that you could try, I'll ask them to send you a sample. You know that Dr. Elsie's underwrites this show and has for years. Dr. Elsie never was in the food business. He was in the litter business and he's a genius, a scientist, an engineer. And I don't know, I'm going to say 5 years ago, he realized as a feline only veterinarian that his clients were still wanting to feed dry food. So he invented by himself a recipe for both wet and dry food called clean protein that is based on the protein that cats eat. And the dry food is not a carb heavy, inappropriate for a cat diet. So if
Hmm.
I'll get a sample sent to you of clean protein. If Vincent will eat clean protein dry food, then all the rest of these efforts are not necessary. If he has a brook fountain to make up for the dry food, because obviously your house must have many brook fountains in it, then he can have a very happy, healthy life on clean protein dry food. So far, it's the only dry food I've ever been able to stand behind because I know that Dr. Elsie made it with the cat's metabolism and digestion and natural nutritional needs in mind. No other company has done that. Other
Yeah.
companies say it's grain free or it's protein first, but the thing is that the protein that is natural to a cat has to be natural.
That makes it. No, I would love to try it for sure.
Right.
Actually, I have another question about the dry food. The one benefit that the only benefit I could think of, and this really comes more from the dog world, as I understand it. I've never had a dog, but
I know what you're going to
from
say,
the
Vincent.
teeth,
Yes.
the teeth,
Okay.
right?
So
Yeah.
when I used to go to some vet schools to talk to the first year students when I first was had the dog Bible and the cat Bible, I'd stand in front of the students and I'd say people think of their animals as pet parents and there's this myth going around in veterinary school that they're teaching you Of course, I wasn't really popular with the professors in these situations. And now you're going to teach it to your future clients and patients, which is that dry food cleans a cat or a dog's teeth. But in fact, it does the opposite. Because these foods are sprayed with desirable smelling and tasting ingredients and oil is involved, it leaves plaque and tartar on your animal's teeth. And I pull out a little bag of Fritos and I say, if you, and I have a toothbrush, and I say, the next time you go to the dentist to have a tooth cleaning, does your dentist hand you a bag of Frito Lays, Doritos, or what have you, and say, these are great. These will keep you and your kids' teeth healthy, or do they give you a toothbrush? Now, there's some dry food, which Dr. Elizabeth has explained, has basically the equivalent of ground up toothbrush bristles called spiculum. So they've put this stuff into the kibble that isn't already bad enough for cats, to be honest, and it's supposed to cause friction as the cat chews it. But all dental disease, yours, mine, cats, I'm not sure so much about horses and goats, but that's not part of this show. I've had both, but I never thought about their teeth cleaning, and even they need to get their teeth cleaned. All of the dental disease happens at the gum line. So when you chew on the grinding surface of your teeth, a dog swallows a great deal of it whole in any case. Not much kibble gets carefully chewed. Cats make that charming crunching sound on the grinding surface of their teeth, leaving behind the residue of basically these corn chips, if you will, even if there's not corn in the recipe, the idea of a corn chip, and it leaves behind this residue at the gum line on the part of the tooth that goes up to the gum line, which is where you don't want that. So the idea that dry food cleans teeth, somebody floated the idea and somebody else said, oh, good, then I want to feed it. But nobody eats a food as a human other than maybe apples, which do have acid in them, and apples can actually clean your teeth a bit. That's why they used to say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Apples in humans have an interesting effect on the mouth and on the gut, but not many other foods that we eat can we say they clean our teeth. And we can't say at all that dry food cleans dog or cat's teeth. And by the way, everything I'm saying, because do you have a dog also? You don't, do you? No. But kibble is fine for dogs. I'd rather people feed half wet and half dry, but that's a separate conversation. With cats, it's basically no Kitty Krack. But I'm going to get some clean protein sent to you. I might
Thanks very much.
also
I appreciate it.
spring for a copy of my book, The Cat Bible, and send it to you because you already know so much. But I think the joy of the Cat Bible is that longtime cat owners and cat lovers can read through it and look up certain topics. Has a great index. I paid for an indexer back in the days when there was no AI. A woman had to go through every page of the book and note and cross-reference when I mentioned carbs or something. So it has actually a really good index. And you'll find stuff in there that might amuse and amaze you. And I do talk about cats and water and how they're basically dehydrated by the way we feed them. I think that the important thing is for people to be mythbusters and know that the reason their cat is overweight is because they're feeding a food their cat's metabolism cannot burn up properly. A cat fed on wet food, unless they have hyperthyroidism or another metabolic disease, is not going to ever get fat. Now, with Vincent, that's the last thing we worry about. We want to put some pounds on that skinny boy. So I think that you've already come up with some things that he really likes. And as far as single ingredient freeze dried treats, they are an okay way to give protein and they give some crunch, but I'd like to see you even crush that up and put it on top of wet food. Anything that gives him, if in fact it's the crunch that's appealing to him, as well as the smell of the dry food, anything that can get him kick-started to wet food. That's our ultimate goal. Anything that entices him. And in your case, also gets him out from under the couch, right? That would be nice.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think these are great tips. Yeah, and speaking of myth busting, yeah, I really appreciate you busting actually that myth of the dry food being good for teeth because now actually I thought initially the instinct is like it makes sense, right? The dry will scrape the teeth and will scrape the
Yes,
gunk off,
yeah,
but
yeah,
intuitively the mechanics make sense. But now actually, as you explained a bit more deeply, I thought about it. Yeah, the way a cat chews is completely different than the way humans chews, like they're carnivorous. So there's no scraping action against the teeth really.
exactly.
So you get well, you go one step deeper, and yeah, you realize that mechanic
It's
actually doesn't make
okay.
much
I mean,
sense. Yeah.
but we like it. We go, oh, good. as a knee
Hmm.
jerk, and then we go, well, wait a minute. You'd have to take the piece of kibble and rub it up at their gum line,
Hmm.
but that probably isn't going to clean their teeth either or keep it from developing plaque and tartar. The fact of the matter is, dogs and cats at a certain point in their life need a dental cleaning under anesthesia. Those of you who take your cats, your long haired cats, to a groomer, don't ever let your groomer say that he or she is going to clean your cat's teeth. It should be done by a dentist under anesthesia. Anything else is painful, traumatic, and ineffectual. Has to be done by a doctor. Separate topic for another day.
Hmm.
Teeth cleaning. I'll get a feline dentist on and we'll discuss it. Andrey Gregoryev, thank you so much for bringing up Vincent's issue because I know other people suffer from it, and for having invented Brook All Glass Fountain, which is a joy for cats and their owners to look at and to lick from. The cats lick, the humans look. It all works. Thank you so much. And good
Thank you for
luck with
having me,
Vincent.
Tracy. The
And
tips.
try all these tips. I'm going to send you the cat Bible, send you some of Dr. Elsie's clean protein, and you'll come back in a period of time and report back on what worked and what didn't, because we are going to get this guy into rehab one way or another. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Andre.
Thank you. Thank you,
Take
Tracy.
care.